Okay, so today I'm going to be making a hardcore Nuzlocke tier list for the first generation of Pokemon. Specifically, I'm going to be creating this tier list around Firered and Leafgreen, as I believe that if you are going to play a first gen Nuzlocke, those are the only games that you should be playing. So I have a tier list here with every Pokemon available in these games, and I'm going to be ranking them based on a hardcore Nuzlocke rule set. If you don't know what it is, go look it up. It's not too hard to find. It's about all over every Pokemon YouTube channel. I'm going to be basing these ratings on my own criteria along with the criteria of the meta, whatever you would call that, um, based around stats, abilities, how they perform in gyms, important trainer battles, Elite Four, etc., etc. And I'm just going to get right into it. This is going to be every Pokemon, not just the evolutions. So we start off here. We have the starter choices, obviously, and I think that the starters for Gen 1 are really interesting because they were basically like difficulty modes for the games. But getting into it here, we have Bulbasaur. So Bulbasaur starts off really strong. Bulbasaur has good matchups against the first two gyms, which is really important, and has resistances to the third, as well as a poison type, which could help you out in the fourth. And I think that as it evolves and as it gets better, obviously it doesn't get too many good poison type moves, but I think that Bulbasaur is like a really solid Pokemon. It starts off kind of slow, and you really don't like use this much in the forest. The bug types kind of resist everything that you have. Obviously, you can tackle them. But I would say that Bulbasaur, in terms of using it in a Nuzlocke, obviously your rival is going to give you some trouble. I'm just going to start off by throwing it in the middle here. It has some good matchups earlier in the game. I think that Bulbasaur kind of. I guess we're just like looking at the early game, right? So we're looking at how it performs for the early game. We wouldn't really be looking at Bulbasaur specifically once we hit the level cap of Misty, right? So if we're looking at this like just for Brock, this is definitely S tier. This thing carries you through the Brock fight. So next we have Ivysaur. So you're gonna have Ivysaur a little longer. I think you have Ivysaur evolves at level 32. If I'm not mistaken, that's right after Erica's gym. It might be at Erica's gym. Ivysaur is a really solid Pokemon. Ivysaur, you're gonna have it for Misty. You're gonna have it for Surge. It obviously carries through Misty. I don't think unless you're like playing a ROM hack, I don't think Starmie carries any Psychic type moves. So it's really good for that. It's not as good for the rival fights. Your rival's going to have a Pidgeotto at this point. Your rival's going to have a Kadabra. So for that, I would say that Ivysaur performs a little bit worse than Bulbasaur. I still think it performs well. I don't think it performs amazing. I think that you have other options by the time you get to Misty. I don't think that Misty's that much of a challenge in vanilla Fire Red or Leaf Green. Hardcore Nuzlocke rules make it a little bit harder. I would say this is a high B tier Pokemon. I think its moveset's kind of weak. I don't think it gets a lot of strong moves that Ivysaur would get in later generations. I think the high B tier is a good place for this. So Venusaur is interesting. Venusaur is it evolves earliest. Ivysaur evolves earliest out of any of the three starters, so you're going to be having this right after Erica's gym. The only thing is, I feel like this doesn't really do much for you. I feel like Venusaur doesn't really do much for you in a Nuzlocke, especially past the point where you get it. Bulbasaur and Ivysaur's utility comes a lot in the first half of the game. The second half of the game, you have stuff like Koga, who does neutral damage to Ivysaur because, actually, is this... offensively, Ivysaur could do nothing to Koga, so I would still have that as a negative for it. And then aside from that, you have Sabrina and you have Blaine, and I think that Ivysaur performs really poorly in those two gyms. You could obviously use it as a pivot if you know what you're doing, so it could be useful for that. But in terms of just sheer matchups, it does pretty poorly against those gyms. Ivysaur matches up really well against Giovanni, obviously, in the 8th gym, but you would be kind of hard-pressed to not... I mean, at that point in the game, you obviously have a Pokemon that can deal with Giovanni. I think that Giovanni is one of the easier gym leaders, despite being the later gym leader in this game. I would give this also a solid B tier. Am I putting it higher than Ivysaur? I don't think so for how it performs in a hardcore Nuzlocke. Charmander. So the thing about Charmander, right? Let me actually look up. The thing about Charmander is they made changes in Firered and Leafgreen. As obviously it's a Gen 1 game, but it has Gen 3 mechanics. So they changed Charmander's level up to reflect some new types that are added to the game, which includes getting Metal Claw. So let's see. Just want to check, make sure it learns Metal Claw. So Charmander learns, interesting, only learns it in Fire. So it only, okay. So Charmander is really interesting in Firered and Leafgreen. As I just found out, it's only getting Metal Claw at level 13 in Firered and Leafgreen. This is obviously to help with Brock's gem. So for that, I'm not saying it's completely useless. Charmander obviously, I think, rips through Verdian Forest. Not that that's like a huge boon, right? Like Spearow Pidgey could do that. Even Nidoran could do that if you're playing, you get Nidoran. Although I believe that Nidoran's only available in the Gen 1 games, so that's not as much of a talking point. But Pidgey and Spearow could handle Verdian Forest just fine. So Charmander I actually think is pretty terrible, right? Yeah, you're having this through Brock. Obviously, it's not evolving. You have Metal Claw. Metal Claw is not doing much for you against Onyx. I feel like Onyx probably two-shots Charmander with Rock Tomb, get the speed drop, and you're kind of screwed. You're kind of forced to switch out. Yeah, I think if you don't have any other answers for Onyx, like obviously Charmander is fine. Like you could work with Charmander if you debuff with like debuff its stats like some of your other Pokemon, right? But like you shouldn't, a good Pokemon shouldn't really need that much help for, a good Pokemon shouldn't need help from other Pokemon to like operate properly. I think that, yeah, no, I think it's definitely, I think Charmander is pretty terrible. Charmeleon, okay. Charmeleon's, my problem with Charmeleon is it doesn't really get any moves, right? Like I don't think the Charmeleon gets Flamethrower until pretty late. Let's see, Charmeleon. So yeah, you're operating with Ember until level 34, right? That's pretty bad. That's not high enough damage output. That's pretty bad. It's better than Charmander. I think that its stats alone kind of help it be a little bit better, but I don't see how this is like what, it's got good matchups against like grass types, but there's so many bug types and flying types in Kanto that like I don't think you'll ever, and poison types, that I don't think you'll ever run into. You'll never run into a grass type that's like so threatening that you need Charmeleon to come out, right? And then what else? You have like Magneton that it matches up well against, but like not even, because like I feel like Magneton's electric moves are going to have a similar damage output to Charmeleon, and I think it outspeeds. So I think Charmeleon's better than Charmander, but not even that much better. Charizard is also pretty rough in Nuzlocke. I think that fire types are normally pretty good in Nuzlocke, but in Firered you have some pretty good options, right? Like Arcanine's pretty good. It gets Intimidate, yeah. Arcanine's like probably the fire type that you want to rock with if you're rocking with a fire type. Yeah, Charizard's got Blaze, it's got Flying type. Flying type's kind of nice, but it's also kind of not, right? Because like you're always switching out when Charizard sees a rock type, it's always switching out. And like there's a lot of hikers in this game, right? With Gravelers, and like that Graveler is gonna wall your Charizard, because Flamethrower is probably a two-shot on Graveler, right? It's got pretty bad special defense, and Charizard's got pretty good special attack. pretty good speed, so it's always going to outspeed. But that one rock slide is pretty much killing your Charizard, right? I don't think that there's anything to stop it from doing that. I think I think Charizard's damage output alone, like this thing could 1v1 a lot of stuff that it's not weak to, right? This thing's, I mean, like it's just a pretty solid Pokemon. I would say that it's a little worse than Venusaur for a Nuzlocke. Um, I would say that's pretty good placement. That's pretty good placement. Squirtle. Squirtle's not terrible. Squirtle's I think Squirtle performs a little bit worse than Bulbasaur in the early game. I think that Radiant Forest obviously isn't as much of a challenge, but I think Rock is easier with Squirtle, right? I don't even. That's probably not even necessarily true, right? Like they probably perform pretty similarly in Brock's gym. It's Misty's gym where you have the differences. Um, in Misty's gym, Squirtle, well, you would have a Wartortle at that point. Stick to that criteria. Um, so just for Brock's gym, I think it performs equally to Bulbasaur now. So I guess I mean by that criteria, we're sticking with the same tier. I think Squirtle's S tier for early game. Wartortle. So Wartortle, as we were going into, was Squirtle. We're looking at Misty's gym, right? Misty's gym, obviously, Wartortle. Here's the thing about Wartortle. If you get a Wartortle and you go right outside of Mount Moon and you get Mega Kick or Mega Punch on this Wartortle, it's going to eat anything that Misty does. And it's going to be able Mega Kick is not a reliable move, but it has enough damage as a raw power as a move to be able to probably two-shot Starmie. Now Wartortle also gets bite, but like I'm pretty sure if you're looking at Starmie's defenses, I think Mega Kick is always a better option there just because raw power and Starmie's defensive stat. Um, you're never faster than Starmie, so you don't want to have to go for bite flinches. I would say Wartortle is a little bit worse than Ivysaur. Obviously worse than Squirtle because it doesn't have the godlike matchup against Brock. Okay, Blastoise. In terms of Nuzlocking, I want to say the Blastoise is probably the best starter, right? The water moves are pretty useful. It's like it's pretty tanky, right? So let's see, Blast. Probably want to look at Wartortle's move set. I want to see what Wartortle like what it gets for Blastoise. Um, yeah, you're getting nothing is the problem. Um, but that's not really too much of an issue because Misty's giving you Water Pulse, right? Misty's giving you the Water Pulse TM, and like that's not even like you're guaranteed to get Water Pulse TM, and if you have a Wartortle, you're using it. You're using Water Pulse on your Wartortle. So we're basically assuming that Blastoise is always having Water Pulse upon evolve. It gets Surf obviously when you hit Fuchsia, which I'm pretty sure you could access Fuchsia as soon as you can access Celadon. No, well, yeah, because you could go get the Pokeflute, right? Wake up Snorlax and then go straight to Fuchsia. Okay, so I mean, like you always have access to Surf before Blastoise, no? Because that's the Erica level cap, which is before Blastoise. So Blastoise is always starting off with its best water move, yeah? That's pretty fucking good. Is that A tier? Talk about matchups. I mean, obviously Giovanni's a good matchup. Um, we're looking at like Koga. I mean, Koga is like a neutral matchup. Sabrina's doing a lot of damage, but like that's not the worst matchup. It's a game of neutral matchups with Blastoise. But that's the thing, like if you're a tanky Pokemon, neutral matchups are not bad because like you're just playing around crits at that point, no? Are we calling Blastoise A tier? I'm gonna say it's a low A tier. I'll move it to high B tier later down the line. Uh, Caterpie for Brock, trash. Metapod, trash. I think those are pretty easy. Those are pretty easy. Um, Butterfree, I don't think Butterfree's that bad. Especially for early game, because like I mean, you're bringing this to every gym after, assuming that you're using it because it doesn't evolve again. Um, but obviously, I mean, you're phasing this thing out of your team after Misty, right? I think that's when it falls off. Let's see. It gets a lot of status moves. That's kind of useful. It's got good utility. That's kind of the name of the game here. Um, Butterfree. I feel like those status moves are pretty useful, right? For catching Pokemon. For catching Pokemon, for kind of slowing down speedy sweepers like Starmie. I feel like this isn't bad because, like, realistically, you could paralyze Starmie with this thing, right? And then you just switch out to your War Turtle or your Ivysaur and you go crazy and you're like, I think that this is better than Charizard. I think that this gets the usefulness that this adds to your team. I want to say that that's more useful than Charizard in the late game because I feel like Charizard already has a full team of Pokemon around it that can do its job probably better depending on the Pokemon. Butterfree in early game, you're still limited in your options. You don't really have a reliable status setter outside of Ivysaur. Um, you don't really have a reliable status setter outside of Ivysaur, and like you're not filling Ivysaur's full move set with status moves. Like you could have 3 of the 4 slots on Butterfree take up status moves, and you're cooking because you really, I mean, what you're gonna have Gust on this? That's like the only offensive move that you're carrying probably. Um, yeah, no, I would say that's like mid B tier, Butterfree. Weedle, I think it's better than Caterpie. I think Poison makes it better than Caterpie. Same with Kakuna. Especially if you catch a Kakuna, if you catch a Kakuna in Verdian, it's worse than Caterpie because it doesn't come with tackle. If you evolve it from a Weedle, which is more likely, it gets an edge on Caterpie. So I would, I mean, the chance of having poison utility just makes it better than Caterpie. I don't even know why. I don't even know why you. It's not really a concern. Let's see. Beedrill. Let's see. All right. Beedrill. Get Fury Attack. I mean, you're not using this for Brock, right? Unless you're like pivoting in the first gym, but like, who are you pivoting for? Bulbasaur and Squirtle literally sweep Brock. So you're never using this in Brock. You don't need to. Um, Twin Needle's not bad. Twin Needle at level 20, that's Misty's level cap. You can use this thing. Realistically, you could use this thing in Misty's gym and Erica's gym. That's not terrible. That's probably, I mean, that's probably better utility than you're getting with Butterfree. Like you could take Butterfree to Erica's gym, yeah. Gust is probably not doing as much as Twin Needle though, right? And Twin Needle can poison? Is that right? Yeah, Twin Needle can poison. That's not bad. I mean, this thing probably goes down to 2 water pulses, right? To from Starmie. Um, Probably lives 1. I mean, like you get confused. I'm gonna say it's pretty even with Butterfree. I think it gets the edge. I think Twin Needle's just a better move. Pidgey's pretty terrible, right? Um, Pidgey alone, I think, is pretty bad. I think it's a little worse than Charmander. Doesn't really have any abilities that could keep it in the fray. Pidgeotto, kind of frail, yeah. I mean, you expect it to be a little bulkier when you get it, and then like you realize that oh, Pidgeot's not even that good. So Pidgeotto is pretty. I'm gonna say Pidgeotto's better. I mean, you're using Pidgeotto longer than you're using Beedrill or Butterfree just because you know Pidgeot's coming, right? But like, yeah, I guess Pidgeot's performing better than Beedrill and Butterfree, yeah. From my I mean like you're almost guaranteed a Pidgey every run that you do. So you're almost always gonna have a Pidgeotto. It doesn't get great moves, but there's a lot of Machops and bug types and grass types, but those aren't really threatening. I mean, Machop could be threatening depending on the Pokemon you're running. Doesn't even really... Nah, this is worse than Butterfree. This is worse than Butterfree. The utility's pretty bad. Pidgeot's a pretty run-of-the-mill Pokemon. I think that, like, if there were, like, the term average, I think Pidgeot kind of sits in it. I think Pidgeot's pretty average. Pidgeot's pretty, like, middle tier. Might be low mid tier. Actually, are we saying that Pidgeotto is high C tier? I mean, if we're throwing Charmeleon in D tier, I feel like Pidgeotto is not that much better. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Pidgeotto is not that much better. I think Pidgeot is where Pidgeotto was. I think that's a better placement. Rattata's good after it evolves, right? Because, like, it's evolved by Misty, and even if you have Guts boosted, Rattata's not doing much against Brock. I mean, it's good in every other fight, but, like, you're not really looking at all the other fights. In a vanilla game, in a vanilla Pokemon game, the average trainer is not really that difficult, because normally they're under the level cap that you're abiding by, and they just have weaker Pokemon. You know, they don't have an ace. Their AI level's, like, much lower. Rattata, I think it's better than Pidgey. I think not having a flying type kind of helps you in the first gym. Is it better than Charmander? Charmander gets Metal Claw, so no. I think Rattata's down here. Raticate gets Guts. That's pretty good. You could pre-poison, pre-burn this before you go into a gym, and then it's kind of cooking. Like, if you bring this to Misty, you're probably sweeping. You bring this to Surge, give it Dig, probably sweeping. You don't even really need to do that. This thing sweeps a lot of the early game. I think this is a high A tier Pokemon. I think this is a high A tier Pokemon. I think that if you have Guts on this, right, this is a high A tier Pokemon. Spearow. I actually need to check the abilities on this. Spearow. I'd like to know, because you don't use this as often. Okay, yeah, so it just says Keen Eye, yeah. Keen Eye gets Sniper as a secret ability later. That's not really relevant here, though. Yeah, okay. This is better than Pidgey. Raw Attack, I think is just better earlier in the game. Fearow, it evolves pretty early. It's definitely better than Pidgeotto. I'd put it, I mean, this is probably, like, middle of the road in terms of the flying normal types. It's better than Pidgeot, yeah, because you get it earlier. That's what I'm looking at here. You get it earlier. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Ekans, can this thing doesn't come with, no, it definitely does come with Intimidate right out the gate, yeah. Ekans, let me see. Where's the data here? Going. So, abilities, Shed Skin, and Intimidate. You obviously don't want Shed Skin. So I guess, like, we're playing off of the idea that this thing has Intimidate, right? That definitely affects it, though, that it also has Shed Skin, because I've definitely played a Nuzlocke before where I've gotten a Shed Skin Ekans. It's not fun. This is obviously only in Firered Ekans. It gets Bite. That's actually not bad to have Bite for Misty's gym. Does it evolve by Misty's gym? This evolves at what, 24, right? You're not getting that? You're not getting this before? Ekans. Yeah, Ekans evolves at 22. I think that Misty has a level 21 Starmie, so like this is right after. Yeah, let me just make sure I'm getting that right. Don't want to mess this up. Let's see. Level 21, yeah, level 21. Yep, okay, level 21. So Ekans, you're having Ekans for Misty. Bite, I think this gets one shot by Water Pulse. It might be a roll. Intimidate's nice. If you get Intimidate, this thing's better than Pidgeotto. It could switch in a lot with Intimidate. Arbok, you get Bite. You're starting at Surge with this. You could give it Dig, right? Like, you could give this thing Dig and Intimidate, and Intimidate's not really carrying you through Surge's gym because you're seeing a lot of special attackers. It's pretty good for Erica's gym. You could use it to pivot in Sabrina's. You're ideally not having an Arbok on your team at Sabrina's gym. I mean, like, if you... So, like, we're assuming that you give this Dig, right? If you give it Dig, it's, like, a great counter for poison types. Koga might have Earthquake. Does Koga have Earthquake? Because if Koga has Earthquake, like, then this is complete garbage. Okay. Let's see here. No, he doesn't. This thing... I mean, like, obviously Koga has Minimize, right? Minimize and Smokescreen. Koga's kind of a headache. So you don't really want to use a multi-turn move against someone with Minimize, right? That could go real south. So he's not as good against Koga as I thought. Intimidate, though, is pretty nice. I'm putting him here. I think it's better than Pidgeot because it has Intimidate. I don't know if I'm overrating the value of Intimidate, but Intimidate is like Guts. Like, it carries you a lot. Pikachu's pretty bad, right? You have this for Misty, but it's pretty frail. Like, you're getting 1 or 2 shot by Water Pulse depending on your level, depending on your nature. It could take out a lot of the smaller stuff in Misty's gym. It's not really doing much against Surge, right? And then you could evolve it come Erica's gym. This is pretty bad. This is like a C tier Pokemon, yeah. A little worse. Pidgeot's a little bit better. Raichu's not terrible, but what does it match up well against? You're not really... This thing doesn't dish out enough damage. Its defenses aren't high enough. Its speed is great, but, like, you're outspeeding for what? To do not enough damage? To take away a third of something's health as it takes away half of yours? I think this is not the best electric type. I think there's a few better electric types in this gen. Plus it's a stone evolution. So you're using your Thunderbolt TM on this. I just don't like that. I think this is pretty bad. I think Raichu's top of C tier. Sandshrews pretty terrible. Yeah, because you're only using this for Misty. You're evolving it by Lieutenant Surge, and then you're just throwing the Dig TM on it. So I'd say Sandshrews like here. Sandshrews like here. It's like above Rattata because, like, gets Poison Sting. Like, you know, that's like status. But, like, you're never using it. Like, there's so many better status setters. You have Ivysaur, you have Butterfree, you have even Beedrill at that point in the game. Sandslash is a little bit better. I think if you give it the Dig TM, it walls Surge, completely walls Surge. I think if we're operating with Dig TM in mind, I think this thing's like low B tier. After Surge, it like completely falls off. But in Pokemon, in a hardcore Nuzlocke, if you have a Pokemon that's like a perfect answer for a gym that gives it value, it gives it value, and you could just get rid of it after that. And like that's valuable enough, right? Like if you have a Wartortle and like a Fearow, those are like not getting you. If you have like a Wartortle, a Fearow, a Butterfree, like, and a Pidgeotto, like you've just had terrible encounters. Like you're probably wiping to Surge, but then you have Sand Slash, right? And Sand Slash can make that fight so much easier. It could completely wall Surge. It could sweep Surge. Then you just throw it in a box and forget about it. I think that taking out one gym exactly doesn't put it over any of these Pokemon, because I think all of these Pokemon have utility outside of just one gym. It's pretty bulky too. I mean, you're taking this to Koga, right? I feel like it does better in Koga's gym than Arbok, but it doesn't have Intimidate, so I might put it here actually, because Stab Dig is not bad. Nidoran gets double kick, right? But in Firered, you're not getting it until after. You're never using this. You're never using this because, so if you're, this is a lot of questions with this, right? Because like this is for both the Nidorans. I will look at the stats when it comes time for Nidoking, Nidoqueen, but I think that when you have Nidoran, Nidorina, Nidorino, I don't think you're having that many differences. It gets double kick and it evolves, right? But then like okay, well, baseline you're never using Nidoran. I think it's good for some, literally a few wild encounters in Mount Moon. I think it gets double kick, which is like, it's not bad for like Geodudes and Clefairies, but like, is that really like, if that's what we're looking at, I think that's down here, right? It's not even as good as Pidgey or Spearow or Viridian Forest, so I think it's down here. And then Nidorina. The question here is when you're evolving Nidorina, Nidorino, right? Because Nidoran and other Nidoran is going down here. You could evolve them whenever you want. It's a stone evolution. So it's all about getting the moves that you want before you evolve it. And you're probably, I mean, like, you're not evolving this before Misty's, right? Because then you're giving yourself a weakness. You're giving yourself a weakness to water types, and you're probably not going to want to do that. Let me check its Gen 3. Gen 3. Oh, it gets. This is terrible. This is horrible for Misty. Are you giving this Mega Kick or Mega Punch? I mean, like, that's what you're doing, right? That's what you're doing if you're using it. I mean, like, this is terrible. This is a bad Pokemon. I'd say it's better than Charmander. I'd say these are both better than Charmander. These are arbitrary, though. Like, this is completely arbitrary right here to me. Nidoking, Nidoking. I'm gonna have to look at the stats here, because I think their defenses are swapped, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check. Let me make sure. So, attack 92, 87, 85. Okay, so Nidoking is more of an attacker. It's more offensive. Nidoqueen is more defensive, right? If you're slow, they're base 85, which isn't bad for early game. Nidoking's faster and does more damage. The only question here in Kanto, are you valuing a hard hitting? I mean, I feel like we like Nidoking over Nidoqueen here, right? We're looking for the damage, and like it's like decently bulky. I don't know where Nidoqueen's bulk really comes in handy. Like, you're not keeping this out against a psychic type. You're probably not keeping this out against a water type. Definitely not keeping this out against something that uses Earthquake. So like, you're never really worrying about the bulk of the Pokemon when you have these guys out. And like, if you're up against something you're weak to, you're gonna want to outspeed, right? Because Nidoking has an attack stat over 100. You're giving us Dig, obviously. Nidoking, I would say, is pretty good. Nidoking, I think you could take this to Koga and you're relatively safe. I think it's right here. Nidoqueen. Yeah, I mean, it's, again, I think it's arbitrary. I think it is better than Firo. Fairy's pretty terrible in this gen, right? It's not fairy type yet. I say it's like down here. With Fable, I think this is like a solid C tier Pokemon. I don't know what you're doing with this. I think the tool assisted speedrun uses this, but it's like you're using metronome and you're manipulating RNG. You're not like manipulating RNG with this in the real game, and you're never using metronome because that could explode. Gets a good amount of TMs though, but I think this is still C tier. Vulpix is pretty bad until you get Flamethrower. You can evolve it to Ninetales. Ninetales, I think. Is this the worst fire type? No, this is definitely not the worst fire type. I think that it's better than Charizard because of it doesn't have a flying type, so it's not like 4 times weak to rock. Is it better than Beedrill? Yeah, no, I think this is definitely better than Beedrill. I think this is better than Pidgeot. Flamethrower hits so hard. It's fast. This is like a fast special sweeper. When are you using it? I mean, like, you could use this in the Elite Four, yeah? Like, you could get away with that. I'm putting it here. I think that's worse than the Nidos, personally, for when you're using it. Jigglypuff is pretty ass. Sing would make it good if it had better accuracy, but it's not. I think it's worse than Clefairy. And Clefairy is just a better Jigglypuff, in my opinion. Same with Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff, I think, is actually here. I think Wigglytuff's pretty terrible. Maybe better than Pidgeotto. Decently bulky for where you get it in the game. Like, you could bring this to Misty and, like, eat some hits, but, like, what are you doing back, you know? What are you going to do? Miss Sing? No. No, this thing's pretty bad. Zubat. Oh, man. Gen 1... The terrible thing about Gen 3, right, is you don't have the national dex to start. So anything that they gave evolutions to in Gen 2, you're not accessing in Gen 3 until post Elite 4. So Zubat can only become a Golbat. And Zubat becomes a Golbat as you head to Surge. So you're really just like, Zubat is terrible. Zubat in this game is bad. Zubat's pretty terrible in this game. I think it doesn't learn any good moves though. You're not using it, Misty. It's like, I think it's like right here, because like Sandshrew is also stuck in that like pit where it doesn't learn good moves. Golbat's not bad. You'd use it in Erica. You'd use it in Koga if you really want to. I think this is top of C tier, yeah. Bottom of B, top of C, top of C. I think it's pretty arbitrary. Oddish is useful for exactly Misty. It doesn't really have the stats to keep up with Misty's Pokemon though. Like, you're not dishing enough damage to stop the damage output that Misty's doing. Trying to think. I think it's just like here, yeah. I think it's just here. Gloom's pretty bad. The moves are pretty bad as well. Gloom is pretty terrible. Its moves are garbage. Are you using this at Misty? Are you using this at Misty? Let me see. All right. No, no, you're never using this, even if you evolve it. Level 21. I mean, you have it at Misty. That's useful. It's useful for exactly Misty and like nothing else. Like, you're bringing this to Erica. You don't have acid for Erica, right? You don't get acid until after Erica. Let me see. Sorry, I've got to check this. Who's using? I don't even. How am I supposed to remember? 20. You do have acid for Erica, and you could evolve it, but that's Vileplume. I mean, you're just evolving this, right? You could have Vileplume Erica, so this thing's kind of just like only for Misty. Um, Golbat's definitely better, yeah. Clefable, Raichu. I'd say they're all better. They're all better than Gloom. Vileplume's okay. I think Vileplume is below Charizard. The poison type kind of hinders it. Because it's bulky enough to where you can use it in fights where there's psychic types if it didn't have the poison typing. I feel like Acid can help it with Erica. You're not using this in Koga. You're not using this in Sabrina. You're definitely not using this in Blaine. You're maybe using this in Giovanni, but the ground types are still threatening to you. This thing's pretty bad. Can't use it against Lorelei, Earthquake, and Bruno. Um, you're not using this against Agatha because she has poison types. You're definitely not using it against Lance because he has all flying types. Your rival is going to completely counter this with Pidgeot or Charizard. This is pretty bad. Yeah, Vileplume's pretty terrible. Paris is trash. Paris is trash. Better than Clefairy because it has Effect Spore, sure. Parasect is also pretty trash. It doesn't get any good moves. Parasect is just garbage. It doesn't get moves that are good enough to hold up. I think it's like here. I think it's like right here. I think it could get some good status moves maybe. But that like puts it right here. Venonat's garbage, right? Venonat's just straight garbage. Like Venonat's like here garbage. It evolves late. Like if you got this thing earlier in the game, it might be a little more useful. Um, but like you're not. You're just not getting. Let me see Venomoth. Wow, these moves are terrible. Okay. What are you doing with this? Doesn't have Quiver Dance is not in this generation for Venomoth, so I mean like this thing's not doing anything. This thing's bad. This thing's like it's like here. Um Diglett, good for exactly one purpose. Early on, completely walls Surge. It's fast. It's got magnitude, which is kind of an RNG. Kind of an unfortunate thing that you have to deal with. But uh, am I saying this is more useful than Golbat? No, it's too frail. Say this right here. I think Raichu handles a lot of like water type trainers fairly well enough. Dugtrio is pretty good. It outspeeds, hits pretty hard. I think it's better than Vileplume. Uh, better than Charizard. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm underrating Charizard. Am I? Flamethrower is pretty good for a lot of trainers. I feel like Charizard could go here. I feel like Charizard could go here. I don't want to underrate Charizard too much. I feel like I'm overrating Arbok. I feel like I'm overrating Arbok a lot. Meowth, pretty terrible. Meowth is pretty bad. Um, what are you doing with this that you're not doing with any other Pokemon? It's just a run-of-the-mill normal type. Its ability is not good enough to compete with stuff like Raticate. So I think this is like I'm just like throwing this with all the trash. Persian's not bad. It's fast. It hits decent for mid game. It's like right here, like right over here. Golbat's probably better. Golbat's probably like a lot better. Think about Psyduck. Psyduck evolves so late. Not considering that though. You're not using this in any important fights, yeah. Psyduck's like Psyduck's right here. Golduck. Here we go. We got a water type. Water types are almost always useful. The thing is you're getting this late, so you're not using this for earlier fights where it might be more useful. When does Psyduck evolve? I remember it evolves like late 30s, right? Oh, or mid early 30s. Okay, 33. You're getting this after Erica, right? Um, I mean, it gets psychic, but like, when are you putting the psychic TM on this? I feel like this is just C tier. I feel like this is a C tier Pokemon. I feel like you're never taking this into the late game. I feel like there's always other water types available. Um, think it's better than Persian. I feel like I'd rather use it. Mankey's pretty good. Mankey can help you with Brock's gym. I think it helps with exactly that. I think it's pretty rough using it otherwise. But for an early game Pokemon, I feel like this thing evolves at like what, level 28? Is that even correct? It evolves in the level 20s. You're having this before Erica. Are you having this for Surge? Because if you have it for Surge, that could affect a ranking. Well, yeah, level 28. You're not getting this till after Surge. Well, Mankey's pretty good. Mankey's good enough. Mankey's good enough to be useful. I think Mankey's top of D. It's better than Pikachu, yeah. Better than Pikachu. It's better. It's like right here. It's like right here. Primeape is a pretty average fighting type. I don't think it hits hard enough to be like good. It doesn't take hits well enough to be good. It's probably top of C tier. I think it deals with like enough random trainers, enough steel types like Magneton, exclusively Magneton in this game. Growlithe, do you have Intimidate when you're just a Growlithe? Let's see. Oh, interesting. Okay, so the thing about Growlithe, you're getting Flash Fire or Intimidate. Those are both not bad. Especially for Blaine. You're not obviously taking this to Blaine. You're having it evolved by then. You're not really running into any other fire types except for your rival, who only has Ember, which isn't threatening. Because he also has a Growlithe if he doesn't have a Charmeleon. I feel like this is better than Charmeleon. It has Intimidate. I feel like, hold on. I feel like Pikachu is worse. I feel like Pikachu's pretty bad. I'm overrating Pikachu severely. Because like it's not even that good in Misty's gym. I feel like it's right there. I feel like you're like right here. And then this guy is obviously really good. I think that if you get Flamethrower on this guy, Flamethrower and Intimidate, it's like a high A. It's like an A tier Pokemon. Probably using this over Blastoise. Poliwag. Oh, see the list gets more difficult as you get Pokemon that are not really available until, like, you could just instantly evolve Poliwag when you get it. So like, you're not really using Poliwag. Pokemon that you could just evolve when you get them, I think, are pretty useless. Like if these were available earlier in the game, like this would be like an S tier Pokemon if you could get it before Brock, but you can't. I feel like you're just throwing this, right? Like you're just throwing this in D tier. I feel like it's gonna be the case for a lot of like unevolved Pokemon. They're just gonna be D tier Pokemon because like you're just either evolving them or you're never using them until they evolve. Poliwhirl is so middling. I mean, as soon as you get this, you're evolving it, right? Like this is another Pokemon. It's like it's fine. Like it's serviceable. It's like Venomoth level. Poliwrath is pretty good. Poliwrath is pretty good. I think this might be top of B tier. Pretty good against Blaine. Pretty good against Giovanni. It resists Lorelei pretty well. It's pretty good against Bruno. This is a decent Pokemon, especially you could give it Ice Beam. It's pretty decent against Lance. Abra's terrible. You're not doing anything. Abra might be like down here because Abra's so bad. Like you literally have to give this TMs for it to be useful. This is terrible. Literally the one use I could think of for Abra, the one use, right, is if you're stuck in a situation where you can't get back to a Pokemon Center without having a potential trainer battle. That's like it. But like, or like if you're stuck in a cave and you need to go out and heal and you don't want to, that's the one situation. That's the one situation where Abra's useful and it's not even in battle. Kadabra's overrated. Kadabra doesn't do much. its moves are not good enough to take advantage of that high special attack. You'd have to get Psychic, which you get later. I think that it's like high C tier. Alakazam, I think, is like really good, but it's not like insane. Might be low A tier. I think Alakazam's low A tier because this is Gen 3, right? So like you're not getting the combined special stat. Like it has special defense and special attack. If this was Gen 1, this would be up here, but it's not, so it's down here. Machop is fine. Machop gets guts, right? Machop gets guts. That's enough to put it here. That's enough to put it here until it evolves. Machoke with guts. Machoke with guts, I think, is probably low B tier. Is it better? It's better than Vileplume. Is it better than Dugtrio? It's not better than Dugtrio, no. I feel like Dugtrio is probably better than these guys. I think Machoke with guts is probably over here. I think you can do quite a bit. The guts boost basically makes this a Machamp, so I'm trying to treat this like a Machamp without good defense. Speaking of Machamp, Machamp is pretty good. If you get a Machamp, like, you're pretty solid. This is a better Pokemon than Poliwrath. Is it A tier? Is it A tier? Yeah, I'd say it's bottom of A. I'd say it's bottom of A tier. Bellsprout's pretty bad. Bellsprout's like with Oddish. Bellsprout's a little better than Oddish, I'd say. I'm literally just gonna match these because they're basically the same Pokemon. They just have different stat distributions. But I think the Bellsprout line's a bit better. Tentacle's pretty good. I think that Tentacle, Poison Water is a pretty good typing. It can handle a lot of hikers, a lot of trainers. I'd say it's more useful. It's more useful than Ekans. Tentacle's pretty dang good. Poison Water is a great typing. I'd say this is also like an A tier Pokemon. No, I feel like Eradicate is a little worse than Arcanine. Geodude is amazing. Geodude's really good. Geodude basically makes gym leaders the only trainers that you have to worry about because there's so many trainers that use just normal type Pokemon that, like, when you have Geodude on the field, like, you're only worrying about water and grass types, and then you just switch to like your Pidgey or your like Ivysaur or whatever you have to handle that. Early game Geodude is just like really good. I think early game Geodude is like around here. Like early game Geodude is just so good. Early game Geodude is so good. Same with Graveler. Like the philosophy with Geodude, but like it's a little bit better. Golem falls off a little bit because the tankiness, like by this point, by the time you have Golem, Pokemon are getting diverse enough movesets to deal with it. And so I think I want to say Golem. Golem's like around here. Golem's like around, its damage is obviously really good. Like this thing hits like a truck. You have Rock Slide and Earthquake. Oof, like this thing is going crazy. It's not better than Venusaur though. Definitely not. Ponytail's is pretty bad. Ponytail evolves pretty late. Pretty useless. By the time you get it, it's just gonna evolve way too late. It's gonna be a little useless. Put it right here. Rapidash isn't bad. This is pre-special physical special split, so I think it's right here. I think like this is the perfect spot because like Growlithe with Intimidate, Flamethrower probably better than Rapidash. Late game Rapidash with no physical fire moves in this gen. You're pretty much exclusively using this to like resist moves that aren't very effective against fire. There's better fire types. I think there's literally better fire types on this list already. Charizard, Ninetales, Arcanine, all better than this thing in my opinion. There is one in this generation that is worse than this. We haven't gotten there yet though. Slowpoke's pretty good. Slowpoke's better than Psyduck. Slowpoke is top of D, bottom of C, right? Slowbro, this thing is tanky, has an amazing typing. You can set up right. You can set up with Calm Mind. This thing's better than Alakazam. This thing's better than Blastoise. Is this like, hold on. This thing's really good. This thing's like really good. Because you're past Surge at this point. There's no like dark type trainers because it's Gen 1. There's no bug type trainers. This thing manhandles the Elite Four with the exception of Agatha, right? Yeah, no, this thing's an S tier Pokemon. This thing's an S tier Pokemon. Um, Magnemite pre-level 30. Steel type's pretty good. Magnemite on itself, though, I think is only a little bit better than Kadabra. It's pretty fast, hits pretty hard. Magneton, however, is an amazing Pokemon. I think Magneton is a low S tier with how we're ranking these. I think Magneton's a low S tier. I think it handles more than Bulbasaur and Squirtle, so I think it's like. I feel like I'm overrating Bulbasaur and Squirtle. I feel like Bulbasaur and Squirtle are not S tier just because they deal with one gym. I feel like I'm massively overrating these Pokemon. I feel like Bulbasaur is a little bit better. Farfetch is terrible. Farfetch is garbage. First chance you have to get it is in the same town as the Electric Gym. I think it's useful for exactly Erica, and that's literally it. I think it's like Pidgeotto level. It might be a little bit better because it gets some setup moves. Doduo, I'd put around the same level as these guys. I think it's worse than Farfetch'd. Dodrio, on the other hand, Dodrio is pretty good. It's fast, it hits hard, gets better moves than Fearow. I think this is a pretty good Pokemon. I think this is like top of B tier. Yeah, this is top of B tier. Seal, you're not really using this. You're not really ever using this. It's probably like Slowpoke level. Dugong, useful in the Elite Four. It's useful in the Elite Four, and that gives it some utility. I think it's like mid B tier. I think this is like it's like around here. It's like around here. Grimer's not bad. You can't get this in Cerulean in this game, right? This is Pokemon Mansion exclusive. It's kind of late. It's like really late. No, you could definitely get this in Cerulean. You have to fish for it or surf for it, but you could get this in Cerulean. So that gives it a bit of a buff. I think it's like it's better than Ekans because it's bulkier. Tentacruel, I think, gets better moves. Tentacool. If this was a Alolan Grimer's good. Like I'm currently playing through a Nuzlocke of Ultra Sun, and Alolan Grimer's pretty good. It adding the dark typing to this, crazy good. Crazy good. That goes for a lot of Alolan Pokemon. Like I feel like I'd be rating Raichu a lot better if it was Alolan type or Alolan form. Same with just like most Pokemon that get Alolan forms or Galarian forms or Paldean forms. Muck, Muck, I think is just like top of CT. Nah, it's bulky. It's really bulky. It's really bulky. Golem's definitely better. It's probably here, right? Like this thing could Toxic Stall. Toxic Stall is like really good in Nuzlocke. Shelter's pretty bad. Has pretty trash special defense. Its defense is okay, but when you get this, you're pretty much just like keeping it in the back until you get Cloyster. It's probably like right here. Cloyster's pretty good. If you know, Cloyster has high enough defense that it's almost like Chansey level, where like if you know the Pokemon you're fighting against, you can just bring Cloyster, and it'll just do like insanely well. I feel like in this gen specifically, I think it's better than Tentacruel because like you're fighting Lance, and if you bring this thing against Lance, I'm pretty sure it does like exceptional against Lance. It walls him like pretty just well. Ghastly's terrible. Ghastly's frail. This thing's kind of like Abra, but with moves. But the moves it gets are like not great. I think being Ghost type is good because it gives you the normal immunity. Same with Haunter, but Haunter gets better moves. I think it's better than Kadabra, worse than Magnemite. Gengar is really good. Gengar has the normal immunity, gets better moves, has good stats. Gengar, better than Blastoise, worse than Guts Raticate. I feel like there's another thing. I feel like Raticate, I don't know, I'm like looking at this and I'm like, I feel like I can't rate Raticate that high just based on an ability as what, 50% of the time? It doesn't always have guts. It kind of makes it like it can have guts. So it's staying in A tier, but it's like bottom A tier. Onix is trash. It's you get this right before Misty. It's useful for like what, Lieutenant Surge's gym. You have a guaranteed Diglett there. You could have a Nidoking, Nidoqueen. You could have a Sandslash. Its defenses are like similar to Cloyster, but it doesn't get the same moves as Cloyster. Like Cloyster has like a good special attack and attack. Like Cloyster's offensive stats outclass Onix, but Cloyster has the defense. That's the difference. That's why Onix is just so terrible. Like it can't do anything. It died. It just dies. This just dies. Are there any Pokemon here I would say, but these guys are better than Onix. These guys are better than Onix. You're better than Onix. You're better than Onix. You're better than Onix and Machop. You're better than Parasect. A lot of these guys are better than Onix. I think this could be bottom of C. Same with these guys. These guys are bottom of C. Like D tier, I'm just like, this is just like arbitrary. Like these are just down here because like there's better options at the point where like you're getting them, in my opinion. Drowsy's not bad. Drowsy's like Slowpoke. Drowsy's like here. It's like bulky. Hypno's better than Kadabra because it's bulkier. Is it better than Magnemite? I feel like it is better than Magnemite. Hypno's like here. Hypno's like here. Better than Butterfree, better than Beedrill. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Krabby's pretty bad. Krabby doesn't get the moves. Krabby's like a little worse than Shelder, doesn't have the defense. Kingler is not bad. Kingler has good offensive stats. It's a water type, gets some good moves. Worse than Poliwrath, worse than Graveler, yeah, better than probably like here. Probably like right here for Kingler. Voltorb is fast and hits, well, you're not really using it in any important fights. Huh. Yeah, no, I'm gonna take Voltorb, and it's fast and it hits like hard. It has electric moves, so right here. Electrode's really fast. And has good electric moves. It could also explode, which is pretty useful in a Nuzlocke. Reset the tempo, take something out that you couldn't otherwise. I think Electrode's like over here somewhere. Is Electrode like right here? I think Electrode's like right here. Execute's pretty bad. It's like top of D tier. Executor is really good. There's no bug types that threaten this. It's a grass type, it's a psychic type, pretty good. I'd say it's high B tier. It's like up here. Cubone. Cubone is pretty bad. This thing's like a ground type Machop now. That's better because it has an immunity to electric types. Marowak. Marowak hits pretty hard. Marowak hits exceptionally hard for... It's bulky. This is a bulky Pokemon. It's like a little better than Dugtrio, if you get it. Probably better. This is Pidgeot. That's fine. That's fine. Hitmonlee's pretty good. It's fast. Hits really hard. It's like a B tier Pokemon. It's like high B tier. It's like right here. Similarly, Hitmonchan is a little bit worse. I think Hitmonchan is like around here somewhere. I think I'd rather have Ninetales over Hitmonchan. Yeah. Okay. Lickitung is garbage. Lickitung is trash. What are you doing with this thing? You're not really doing anything with this. This thing's around the same area as Grimer. It's a little bit better because it has Levitate. Same with Weezing. I think Weezing's actually really good. Weezing might be like high B tier because Levitate's so good. Levitate is so good on Weezing. just like really good. Gonna have to rearrange this later. This is just like this feels off to me somehow. Um, Rhyhorn's what Onyx wanted to be, but it's still not great. I think it's more useful than Far-fetched. More useful than more. It's like over here. You are too high. Um, Genuinely think you're like over here. Rhydon is not bad. Rhydon is pretty strong. It's worse than Golem, yeah. It's like over here. It's like right over here. Uh, it's like fine, right? That's like good. It's a good way. Chansey's really good. Chansey, it's one of those Pokemon where it's similar to Cloyster, but it's like better. Where it's like literally any any special attacker is completely negated if you know what you're doing. Like you could play around any trainer. Like you could just play around anyone who has special attackers by bringing a Chansey and like you put Toxic or like Seismic Toss on it and it's just over. Tangle is pretty rough. Pure Grass type makes it better than Weeping Bell and Gloom, but I don't see how this is better than Venomoth personally. Kangaskhan's not bad. It's like a worse Tauros. I haven't really gotten there, but like a B tier Pokemon. It's a little worse than these guys. I think Muck is probably a little undervalued here, a little underrated. I need more experience with Muck to know how it performs. Horsey's pretty terrible. I think Shelter's probably better. Seadra's not bad. It's a pretty average water type. Where are other average water types? Goes like doesn't evolve in this gen, so I think it just has to sit here. I think it has to sit here and be okay with it. Goldeen's trash. Can I put Goldeen's just terrible. Goldeen's like terrible. It's like right here. Seeking's not as bad once you get the Surf TM, but it's like in terms of usability, it's just like a C tier Pokemon. Like this is just like a terrible water type. It's like worse than these Pokemon. I think Tentacruel's even better than it. Starmie's not bad. I mean, you're like evolving this instantly. Staryu, that is. So probably like right here. Probably like right here. Starmie, much better. Starmie's a great Pokemon. If you build this thing with like a little bit of bulk, it could sweep. Like there's a reason Misty uses this thing. There's a reason it's such a threat. It's like an A tier Pokemon. It's like a solid A tier Pokemon. Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime's okay. Mr. Mime's like, is it worse than Hypno? It doesn't have Fairy type in this game. It's like worse than Hypno. Hypno has the bulk. This thing, these two are like the same, except Hypno's like bulky. Mr. Mime is like has a little more attack. Um, but they're like psychic types are so aggressively overrated. Psychic types were really good in Gen 1, but this is Gen 3 now. This has Gen 3 mechanics. Scyther just doesn't get any good bug types, good bug type moves. Scyther's like here. Scyther's like here. It's definitely it's just middle of B tier now. It's like right around here, like middle of B tier. Jinx is not bad. You get Jinx pretty late. It has ice type moves. I think this is better than Hypno and Mr. Mime, right? Just because it has ice type moves. I feel like because of how useful this could be with your final few fights in the game, it's actually like right here. Like you could, the way I'm looking at this is like high B tier and up is stuff that you could like bring to the champion fight. If it's a fully evolved Pokemon and it's B tier and up, it's probably you could probably take it to the champion and like get away with it. Obviously, stuff like Geodude, Squirtle, Ivysaur, Wartortle, these are only in here again for how they perform until they hit the level cap where they evolve. So like these guys are like all good until you hit the level cap where they evolve. Obviously, trait evolution, excluded. Yeah, so that's why these are all here. Electabuzz, this is like a little better than Electrode. I think it's like a little better than Electrode, right? Maybe a little worse because it's not as fast. It's like it's not as fast. It's not gonna. That's fine. Magmar, it's better than Rapidash. That's like the baseline we're working with. It's like low B tier. I think this is a little worse than Charizard, right? The stats will just kind of like make it that way. Pinsir, another Pokemon that just like this Pokemon did not reach its full potential in this gen. This thing's better in later gens, but I think it's like better than Seadra. Better than Seadra. Tauros, great Pokemon. It has Intimidate. Has Intimidate. It hits pretty hard. I would say Tauros is like in here somewhere. You're never catching this. You're never catching this in a Nuzlocke, but if you do, it's great. Obviously, um, Magikarp's pretty trash. Like you're just waiting for this to become a Gyarados, right? Like you're just this thing's just garbage. It could have tackle, which puts it like right here, like right here. This thing's broken. This thing is probably the best Pokemon in the game. I think that you know what's crazy? No, it's not. It's like right here. The physical special split hasn't happened yet, so Gyarados is not at its best in this gen, but Intimidate and its type combination, it just this you get this, you pretty much win if you know what you're doing. Like these are Pokemon where like if you have these Pokemon on your team, they will affect how you look at battles because they're so good, either based on their resistances or the move they get, or like the stats that they have. That's that's basically what S tier is reserved for. Lapras is pretty good. Lapras is bulky. It's water ice type, so it helps you out later. Is it low A tier? This is like fringe B tier, A tier material right here. Ditto doesn't have imposter in this game, so Ditto is kind of garbage. Ditto's kind of garbage. There's like a few niche uses for it maybe, but it's kind of trash. Eevee is trash. The Vaporeon's pretty good. It's like a bulky water Pokemon. That's usually pretty solid. Lack of flying and psychic weaknesses. Put it like here. Put it like right here. Jolteon's pretty good. It's fast. It's like a similar to Electrode, kind of. I think it's a little bit better than Electrode. I think Electrode gets better moves actually. So these electric types are all like you could use any of these and like they're fine. You, Flareon, are garbage. You are the worst fire type of the game. There's no question about that. I think that if you give it TMs, it could like it's gonna hit fine, right? Like it's not gonna do 0 damage. But this is like the seeking of fire types. It's like these two are like the same. These two are not gonna be usable Pokemon until the physical special split comes into play. Porygon is trash. This is another Pokemon that does not benefit from physical and special not being split yet. Just kind of somewhere in here. It's arbitrary. This is arbitrary. I think it's like better than all these unevolved Pokemon, maybe. It's definitely better than Onix. Homonite, unevolved, pretty bad. You're not using this until it evolves. Like right here. Same with Kabuto. Omastar is really good. Really good. Okay. I don't know. It's not a Pokemon that you see too often. I think it's like right here. It's like right here. Kabutops, I would say, is a little bit worse because it focuses on the physical attack. Say it's like right here, yeah. Aerodactyl's pretty good. It's fast. It doesn't hit as hard as you'd want it to, but I think the fact that it's fast and hits moderately hard puts it like right here. Snorlax is S tier. I don't think that's a competition. I think Snorlax is like HP pool, bulky, gets good moves. I think it's like right here, and it's definitely better than Magneton. I feel like Chansey's better than Magneton as well. Magneton's bottom of S tier, but these are all like great Pokemon once you get into this section. I am going to actually gonna add a row here. Add a row below. Did it work? Yeah. Okay. Let's go band. You're here. You're here. You're here. You're here. hero here. Um, Obviously, you're not using legendaries in your Nuzlocke. You shouldn't. I mean, like, you can, you know, no one's going to stop you. You should play the way that you want to play, really. But usually people opt to not use legendaries. They kind of disrupt the flow of the game. Dratini, I feel like you're not banning Dragonite though, because Dratini and Dragonair are bad enough to like use. You get like my philosophy with pseudos is like if the Elite Four is using them, it's probably fine to use them because like you're not using something that's like that much strong. That's the problem with legendaries. Like you bring a Zapdos to Lorelei, and your Zapdos is just like so much stronger than anything that she has to fight you with, to the point where it's just like what is she doing? But like Dragonite, I feel like Lorelei like is fine against Dragonite. Like there's enough threats on Bruno's team to threaten Dragonite. Lance obviously threatens Dragonite. Your rival could probably deal with Dragonite, but like Dragonite's still like an S tier Pokemon. I think this is solid. Obviously it's never gonna be perfect. This is my opinion. But I think like in terms of a tier list that covers how useful Pokemon are in a hardcore Nuzlocke environment through their level caps, I think this is not bad. All right, so for those of you who don't know, I'm going to be doing one of these for every major generation's best game. Obviously for Black and White, I'm going to be doing both Black and White and Black and White 2, as those games are both different enough. If these videos do well enough, I'm going to end up doing them for like Red and Blue or Yellow, Gold, Silver, Crystal. But otherwise, I'm just going to be doing, you know, as I feel. I'm going to be doing what I want, just kind of tiering these Pokemon, doing them pretty casually. These are not too serious. This is mostly just like something to listen to if you're interested in Nuzlocks. If these get popular enough, I'm probably going to go back to doing Nuzlocks. Obviously, my first two Nuzlocke videos didn't do crazy well. They only got a few views, but I want to get back into doing content like that. So I hope that the few people who watched this enjoyed. And I'm looking forward to doing the rest of the games in the series.